Some animals sound completely made up. They are not. They are real, and biology signed the paperwork. The deeper you look, the less normal Earth seems. A bird can carry a fish bouquet. A frog can freeze like a dropped popsicle. A jellyfish can hit life's rewind button. And that is not even the strangest part. You share this planet with creatures that break your common sense on a daily basis. By the end, ordinary pets and pigeons might feel a little under-designed. So, let's start with something adorable. Then we'll get gloriously weird. Puffins look cute right up until you notice they are basically flying sandwiches with wings. An Atlantic puffin can clamp down on 10 or more fish at once and still keep hunting. It does that with a spiny tongue and a rough upper mouth that help pin each slippery fish in place. So, while one fish is already locked in, the puffin can keep catching more without dropping dinner. That trick lets a parent deliver a pack beak in one trip instead of wasting time making endless little snack runs. That mouthful usually goes straight back to a hungry chick, which somehow makes the whole stunt even better. Flamingos seem like the kind of bird that was born already dressed for a party. But their pink color comes from pigments in the food they eat, especially algae and tiny crustaceans. Without those carotenoids, flamingos would not keep that famous cotton candy glow people expect. That also means the color is less like paint and more like a long-term receipt for what the bird eats. So the bird everyone thinks of as naturally pink is really wearing its lunch on the outside. And if that feels weird, the next fact gets personal fast. Honeybees can learn to tell human faces apart, which is deeply rude for an insect that tiny. In experiments, bees learn to link specific faces with a sweet reward and then recognize them later. They probably do not spend their free time judging human cheekbones in the wild, though. The real takeaway is not bee gossip but bee learning, because they can build surprisingly sharp visual memories. The strange part is that a brain smaller than a sprinkle can still handle a face recognition task. And now we move from tiny brains to birds that absolutely remember your nonsense. Crows can recognize threatening human faces and remember them for years. In a University of Washington study, crows scolded the same danger mask long after the original capture event. The reaction spread beyond the first trapped birds, suggesting the warning was socially passed through crow communities. Young birds appeared to pick up the lesson too, which is the avian version of hearing the family story forever. That means one bad encounter can turn into a whole neighborhood reputation problem. And the next hunter does not scream at you. It spits. Archerfish hunt insects with a move that looks like a prank and works like a weapon. They aim from below the surface and shoot a sharp stream of water at bugs above them. If the shot lands, the insect falls into the water and becomes lunch almost instantly. They also learn where to aim because light bends at the water surface and makes targets look deceptively placed. Some can fire several streams from one mouthful, which is outrageous for a fish with no fingers. Things get even weirder when the animal carrying the hardware has extra hearts. An octopus has 3 hearts because apparently one dramatic biological twist was not enough. 2 hearts pump blood through the gills, while the third pushes it through the rest of the body. It sounds excessive until you remember an octopus is basically a muscle-powered escape artist with a ridiculously active life. That setup helps fuel a soft-bodied hunter that can squeeze through tiny gaps and vanish into rock work. So yes, the animal opening jars and escaping tanks is also running premium cardiovascular equipment. But the next creature turned pregnancy into a plot twist. Male seahorses get pregnant, carry the developing young, and then give birth. After courtship, the female places her eggs into the male's brood pouch, where they are fertilized. Weeks later, strong contractions can send out anything from a few dozen to around 1,000 babies. The newborns arrive fully formed and immediately on their own, which is equal parts impressive and emotionally abrupt. It is one of the clearest reminders that nature ignores the scripts humans keep trying to write for it. And somehow, friendship gets stranger from here. Female vampire bats share blood meals with preferred partners, which sounds fake until the science arrives. Inside roosts, they groom one another and sometimes regurgitate food for bats that fail to feed. Researchers also found that females may call to favored partners at feeding sites to join a meal. That matters because a bat that misses dinner can starve quickly, so sharing is not sweet, it is survival. So one of the creepiest animals in pop culture also has a social life built on loyalty and leftovers. And now we step into a mammal that already looked assembled during a power outage. Platypuses glow blue-green under ultraviolet light, at least based on studied museum specimens. Under normal light, they look brown and almost storybook-level odd with bills, webbed feet, and flat tails. Under UV, their fur reflects a bright blue-green fluorescence that scientists are still trying to explain. Researchers do not yet know exactly what the glow does, which somehow feels perfectly on brand for platypuses. So the platypus was already egg-laying, venomous, and semi-aquatic before it unlocked secret nightclub mode. So the platypus was already egg-laying, venomous, and semi-aquatic before it unlocked secret nightclub mode. But the next animal turns sound itself into a costume. Lyrebirds are master mimics, famous for copying other birds with scary precision. Captive lyrebirds have also been recorded mimicking camera shutters, alarms, and even chainsaw-like sounds. In the wild, though, the evidence for mechanical mimicry is much thinner, and most copying is other bird life. Even without the machinery legend, their natural performances are stacked with whistles, clicks, beats, and borrowed forest voices, which somehow makes them cooler, because even the myth comes from a bird already doing impossible things. Which somehow makes them cooler, because even the myth comes from a bird already doing impossible things. Ready for a body trick that sounds medically illegal? Wood frogs can freeze during winter and thaw back to life in spring. As ice forms around their cells, the frogs flood their bodies with glucose that helps protect tissues. While frozen, they can stop breathing, stop moving, and even lose a detectable heartbeat. For months, the frog is basically a small icy statue tucked under leaves and snow. Then spring arrives, the heart restarts, the brain wakes up, and the frog hops away like nothing happened. If that did not reset your standards, space is next. Tardigrades have survived direct exposure to the vacuum of space in experiments. These microscopic animals can dry into a tough state called a tune and ride out brutal conditions. NASA notes that tardigrades exposed in low Earth orbit were still viable afterward, and some even reproduced. So when people call them tiny tanks, that is not hype so much as very rude understatement. And now we get to regeneration that feels like science fiction wearing gills. Axolotls can regrow lost limbs, which would already be enough to steal the whole video. But they can also regenerate hearts, spinal cords, and even parts of their brains without permanent scarring. Scientists study them because their repair system could reveal why human bodies heal with scars instead. So the smiling little salamander floating in aquarium gravel is also one of biology's biggest flexes. The next animal shaped its poop like geometry homework. Wombats are the only known animals that produce cube-shaped poop. Researchers found that the unusual shape comes from the wombat's intestine, not from some square exit hole. Those cubes are useful because they stay put on logs and rocks, where wombats use them for scent signals. So even a lonely midnight bathroom trip becomes a tiny territorial billboard in the Australian dark. And somehow, the final fact still manages to top cube poop. The so-called immortal jellyfish can reverse its life cycle when stressed or damaged. Instead of staying an adult medusa, it can collapse into a blob-like stage and turn back into a polyp. That means it can repeat a younger phase again, which is why people say it may avoid dying of old age. It can still be eaten, of course, but the idea is wild enough to make every birthday feel slightly optional. So yes, this planet contains glowing platypuses, cube-pooping wombats, and jellyfish that basically moonwalk through time. If one of these facts hijacked your brain, send it to the friend who still thinks nature is predictable. And if you want more true nonsense like this, there is a whole trail of Zorp facts waiting for you. Jump into the next video when you are ready, because the animal kingdom is nowhere near finished showing off. Until then, keep looking closely, because the weirdest thing on Earth is usually already alive.